Hi there, my name's James Reiki. I'm the Senior Creative Art Worker at Macmillan Cancer Support, and today I'm going to teach you how to make an object silhouette. This video is designed for our suppliers and our internal staff, so I'm not going to go into basics of Photoshop. I'm going to assume that you've got a pretty good knowledge of the program. For today's demonstration I'm using Photoshop CS5. But this technique is applicable to many older versions of Photoshop as well. So here we go. This is the image I'm using for today's demonstration. We use a lot of the most basic stock photography there is for our silhouettes, as what we've discovered works best is a very simple object straight onto the camera with a really strong dynamic outline shape. If you don't have this kind of straight-on image, it tends to not work so well when we set headline font over the top of it, and also at the end of the day our images are silhouettes, and so if it doesn't have a really strong outline shape you're always going to be fighting a bit of a losing battle. Okay, so the first thing I do is put a hue and saturation layer over the top. All of our layer effects are non-destructive, so we can always come back to this RGB image at any stage of the process. So once we've got our hue and saturation level layer filter up, what I can do is just drag that saturation bar all the way down to the left, which just makes the image appear as if it's a grayscale black and white image. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm adding all these layers from the bottom of the layers palette. I'm going to add a levels layer on top of that hue and saturation level, and what I'm going to do is just call that dark. I always name my layers just so I don't get confused if I have to add in a lot of different layers and a lot of different masks. So with this dark levels layer, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start moving these sliders around just so I can see if you put the mid and the light tones on top of each other, you can move those two as one. If you don't have all these sliders right on top of each other, what you'll notice is you'll get this kind of grey tone effect appearing on the image, and that's absolutely what we don't want. What we want is a pure black and white image, so we can really see where we are with it. Okay, so with this first layer, the object of the exercise is to make it as dark as possible. What I want is literally a silhouette, a pure black and white object, so that I can check that this image is producing a really nice outline shape. Because at the end of the day, that's what our object silhouettes are. It's a silhouette. It's a really strong outline shape. And then what we do is we add in 10 to 20% of detail just to show 3D form and create a bit of interest within that image. So I'm happy with that first dark layer. The next thing I'm going to do is add in another levels layer, but I'm going to make sure that goes below the dark layer because we're going to build up our layer effects, and I'm going to name this one light. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off that dark layer, and then with this new layer what I'm looking for as I'm moving those sliders is for light tones. I'm looking for these nice extra bits of information that tell me that this object is a 3D shape. So I'm moving it around, and I just want to get that nice balance so that they're just starting to come in, just breaking the edge so that I can see the 3D form. So that looks pretty good to me. And so what I'm going to do is now I'm going to fill that layer mask. So make sure I'm selected here on the mask, make sure I've got a black colour, and just fill that whole layer. So what that's doing now is there's absolutely no effect applied at all because I've masked out that whole light layer. And now what I'm going to do, making sure I've selected that new light layer, I'm going to get a brush. I'm going to make sure my brush is set on dissolve, because what that means again is that the brush will only produce black and white information, no grey tone. Make sure I've got white selected down here in the colours, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start painting in those nice details back into the image. So up here they've got this lovely bit of shadow and just some of those marks coming through. Now the reason why we do this is because what it means is you can be direct and selective with the information you're bringing in. That's the point. You're making decisions about exactly the minimum amount of extra bits we can add to this image to show that it's got 3D form and shape. Now, as you'll notice, what I'm doing is I'm switching between black and white. So white for reveal, and then switching to black, and just if I've gone too far, if I've taken too much, if I've brought too much information in, just blacking that out again, just trying to get the right balance between darks and lights. And you know what? That's pretty good. Yeah, that's pretty much there. So I've just got those few little bits of information just showing me that it's a 3D shape. Now with our silhouettes, you often have to keep in mind that when we use them in a layout, what we'll do is we'll set the headline font right there in the center of them. So this nice bit of form here, light falling on the edge of the lid, is great, but when we come to put the headline font over the top, that's going to show up. So that's going to make it really difficult for us to read the headline clearly. So what I do is I just add a plain simple layer on top of all the rest of them, which I normally call, black, and just paint out that bit of light, maybe leaving just a little bit in, so just a bit at the side, just to show that, you know, that there is a lid there. Great. Okay, so as you notice, this image is still RGB, and then when we bring it into InDesign, we'll need it to be a grayscale image so that we can colour it up with one of the 3 Macmillan green colours. So what we do is we highlight all those layers, go up to the top right-hand corner, and with this drop-down menu, go to Convert to Smart Object. And what that does is it packages all the folders up and effectively creates like a sub-level group. So this layer here I can now apply effects to, and I won't affect anything within my layer structure below. So at this point I can go Image, Mode, Grayscale, and make sure you click Don't Rasterize, because otherwise it will just flatten that layer out. And that will give us a black and white image. And then if we want to go back into the levels we've edited, we can just double click on that levels icon, and it comes back into all our adjustments. So simple as that. So there you go. Very straightforward. That's how to create an object silhouette.